Hey guys, Anthony Beckham here, and today we're going to be talking about the top 5 reasons not to move to Roseburg, Oregon. We've done pros and cons videos in the past, and we're always talking about how great it is to live here and all the beautiful things to see and the things to do. But what about the negatives? On that pros and cons video, we got plenty of comments about the negative things about town and questions asking about the negative things. So today, that's what we're going to be digging into. Of course, I love my small town of Roseburg, Oregon. I was born and raised here, and I've done quite a bit of traveling, and I still plan on living my years here and retiring here eventually. So with that being said, please don't take offense to any of the things that we're going to be talking about today, because I love this town just as much as the next guy. But this channel is all about transparency and honesty and what it's truly like living here in Roseburg. So that's what we're going to be talking about. Now, this is the subject that probably gets brought up the most in our comments, and that would be the homeless problem. Now, growing up here, I'd have to say that Roseburg never really had a homeless problem. I mean, sure, there was homeless folks that you'd see every once in a while, just like in any other town, but I'd have to say that it's become a lot more visible in the community here in the last few years and is becoming hard to ignore. I think part of the reason that this issue has become so much more out in the open is that since the pandemic, the CDC actually stated that it would be safer to allow homeless to shelter in place. And in turn, Governor Kate Brown issued an executive order that called for local governments to allow homeless to shelter in place, which includes our public parks. This is when I really started to notice the change. And since then, the local government has started to push the homeless out of our local parks. But the fact is that these are people that have to have somewhere to go. So they kind of just migrate from one part of town to the other, living out of their cars or these beat up RVs. And it's really just a sad situation. Of course, there's always the possibility that you're gonna see a homeless person talking to themselves or yelling at a car driving by or something like that. So for simplicity's sake, we will keep the mental health and the drug use conversation underneath the same topic. But the truth is, it doesn't really matter where you're from. I mean, regardless of what city, insert city name here, you're probably going to have a homeless population. And this isn't a local issue, but more of a national issue. And I can tell you that Roseburg's homeless problem is next to non-existent when compared to larger cities up the I-5 corridor like Eugene or Portland, Oregon. Or even compare it to the beautiful beaches of Southern California or Oahu, Hawaii, which I've been to. There is homeless wherever you go. So I'm pretty well convinced that if Roseburg now has a visible homeless population, then most cities across the country are probably experiencing the same issue. Here in Roseburg, our school systems are rated pretty middle of the road according to most online sites like greatschools.org, with West Side schools that we've mentioned in some of our neighborhood videos like Hillcrest Elementary, Melrose Elementary, or Fremont Middle School being the higher rated public schools in the area. I'm frequently asked about the private school options here in Roseburg, and there are a few that I've heard great things about, most of them being faith-based or Christian-based schools. However, I did recently hear about the Montessori school here locally that offers a whole new take on the education system that was actually really refreshing to hear about. With all of that fancy private school stuff set aside, I personally went through the Roseburg public school system from Green Elementary to East Primary in Sutherland to Fullerton 4 Elementary. Yeah, I moved around a lot. Fremont Middle School, Roseburg High School, and I would have to say that I always had good experiences with all of my teachers and counselors, and I turned out pretty all right. Speaking of kiddos, our next topic on why not to move to Roseburg is that there isn't a lot for kids to do around here. And for the guy in the comments that's gonna say, except to do drugs, I am already way ahead of you, and well, that's why it's on the list. Of course, there's all of the things that we always talk about on the channel that make Roseburg great. The beautiful outdoors, hiking, waterfalls, hunting, fishing. But what do you do whenever it's raining outside or whenever the sun goes down? If you're an adult looking for a date, or say a teenage kid looking for something to do on a Friday night, you might find yourself having a hard time with what to do next. I feel like the majority of this con is just because Roseburg is kind of a small town and lacks the amenities that you would find in a larger city. So for instance, I really enjoyed the local boxing gym, but now that that's shut down, the nearest boxing gym for me to go to is an hour north up in Eugene. I have some friends that live in the metro area of Phoenix, Arizona, and their kids are able to attend like this gymnastics, parkour, ninja, backflip, soft walls kind of class. And specialty things like that are just few and far between. And best of luck to you finding the love of your life the old-fashioned way in a small town like Roseburg, Oregon. I've said it before and I'll say it again, Roseburg, Oregon is primarily a retirement community. So if you like things like bingo, wineries, golf courses, there's plenty to keep you busy here in Roseburg. But for the younger generation looking for a worthwhile career here, it's not so easy. The primary employment opportunities around here are going to be retail, lumber mills, and the medical field. Now, with us being a retirement community, there are plenty of employment options with, the retirement homes. We have the VA hospital, Mercy Medical Center, and of course, many private practices. But again, Roseburg is a small community, and with that comes a lack of good career opportunities. I myself feel very lucky that I was able to find myself in a business that allowed me to continue to stay here, but many of my friends that I went to high school with ended up, attending the schools and looking for career paths up north, say Eugene, Salem, Portland area, and understandably so. And last but not least, Roseburg, like many cities across the US, has really experienced the crunch with housing inventory being low and prices continuing to go up. Now, Douglas County is still the least expensive county here on the Oregon I-5 corridor, but real estate prices are going up, and good luck finding a rental. And if you do, your landlord is probably asking an amount that seems astronomical, especially whenever you take into consideration the lack of high-paying jobs here. Roseburg, Oregon was just recently featured #1 in a Yahoo News article talking about places that aren't going to be affordable to live here in the next 10 years. And they were actually predicting a 20% price increase even over the next 12 months, which good luck trying to predict the market. But honestly, I wouldn't doubt it, especially with what has happened with our prices over the last few years. Many big businesses have been investing in our community over the last handful of years, with many chain stores and restaurants coming in, which is usually a good indicator of suspected growth. I personally continue to buy up Roseburg real estate and smile as it goes up in value. Of course, none of us know what's going to happen tomorrow, but I think we can all agree over a long enough time horizon, Roseburg real estate is only going to continue to go up. And while there are a few reasons not to move to Roseburg, Oregon, I think that you'll see that most of them align with the fact that we just are a smaller town. So if you're considering moving to a 25,000 population or less community, you're likely gonna see most of these issues, from town to town. And of course, there's many pros to living in a small community as well. So hopefully this video helps you realize whether or not Roseburg, Oregon should be on your list of consideration for places to move next. If you guys appreciated the transparency of today's video, please hit the like button. It helps out the channel immensely. And if you have any video topics that you'd like us to go over next, feel free to comment those below. And of course, subscribe to learn what it's all about living here in Roseburg, Oregon. We'll see you on the next one. See ya. If you liked today's video, YouTube has another one recommended for you right over here that I know that you're gonna love. And of course, don't forget to subscribe. See ya.